All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we are all coming from different time zones. It's good morning to a few people. Thank you to everyone who also helped organize this event. This is the University of the Philippines Value Our Heritage event, which we recently renamed to the Asuncion, Miteria, Austria Value Our Heritage event. We do this every year, and this is really the purpose for this is to celebrate, explore, and deepen our understanding of Filipino heritage and culture. This forum is meant to help Filipino Americans stay connected to our roots and find the relevance of Filipino values in our modern lives, whether we're in America, in Tito Eddie's case, in Australia. We welcome everyone from all backgrounds in these conversations, Filipino heritage or Filipino origin or not. These conversations is one of our contributions to the greater community, and we believe that it enriches the place we live in because of this. So thank you for everyone who helped make this happen. So that's just a really quick introduction of this. Hopefully, like I mentioned, everyone had a chance to see the film. It was wonderful. I saw it last night. I talked to a few people here who also saw it recently or in the past when the FASO organization in Madison did their showing last year. We got a really great feedback. So today we're very excited to have two very, very important guests, and we're very honored to have them. We have Grace Pimentel-Sembulan, who is the director and filmmaker of this film, and we'll introduce her a little bit more later. We also have Benito Bautista, who is the co-producer of the film. So we're very excited to have them, and we thank them for taking time to be here. So before we proceed with the Q&A, I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about UPAA. My name is Cream Pepito. I'm one of the board members of the University of the Philippines Alumni Association of Wisconsin. I will be your soft host for today. And we also have with us Lucy Soriano Sloan. She is the president of UPAA-W, and she will be talking about just a little bit of UPAA-W and what we do for the community. Ike Pham is also here, and he will be helping us with the Q&A. So please type your questions in the Q&A or chat, or raise your hand so we can unmute you and we can have you ask your question to the panelists. So without any more interruptions, let's have Lucy. Lucy, please say a few words about UPAA-W.
Hi, thank you, Cream. Good afternoon, everyone. Together with my fellow alumni at the University of the Philippines Alumni Association of Wisconsin, or UPAA-W, we would like to extend our gratitude for joining us in this annual event, which we call the Asuncion Miteria, Austria Value Our Heritage, or AMAVOH Symposium. So I hope you were able to enjoy and found value to the movie, which all of us watched earlier. And this is the noteworthy A's for Agustin. So before we proceed with the Q&A session, please allow me to share an overview of the organization. I know most of us are members here, but for the sake of all those non-members, I would just like to share a little bit of UPAA-W. So the association was founded on February 3rd, 1974. For 47 years, our mission is to advance the core values and principles of our alma mater, the University of the Philippines, all in pursuit of excellence. So basically, we engage in various activities, primarily to raise funds to support its scholarship programs, and second, to assist in community service, and third, to promote awareness on the Filipino heritage and culture among its members and the community. So, like Augustine, we believe in the value of education, and we want to give back to the community through the scholarship programs for deserving students at our alma mater in the Philippines, as well as in America. So, to give you some numbers, I'm happy to share that since 2011, we have around 46 scholars in the Philippines, and since 2016, around 5 scholars in America. So just to add up to what Cream said earlier about VOH, so this was originally Value Our Heritage, and this was conceptualized by one of our founders, Dr. Asuncion, Miteria, Austria, who for 45 years led this worthy endeavor. This year, as per what Cream shared earlier, we renamed it to Asuncion, Miteria, Austria, Value Our Heritage Symposium to honor her memory, her great passion, and leadership. So for more details about our organization and the scholarship programs, you can visit our website at upaaw.org. So again, we would like to thank our panelists, Grace Simbulan, of course, the filmmaker of the the noteworthy Ace for Agustin, and Benito Bautista, the film co-producer. It is definitely our privilege to hear their insights about the making of the film during the upcoming Q&A session, and of course, given that they gave us this opportunity, their time to be with us today. So thank you as well for all the efforts of our AMAVOH chairman, Cream, for making this event happen, and of course for Ike as well. So Cream will be our facilitator during the Q&A. I think she mentioned that earlier. So once again, without further ado, maraming salamat and thank you very much for your valuable time, especially this is a Sunday. So thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. All right. So, let's not waste any time. I'm sure everyone has a lot of questions for Grace and Benito here. But before we start that, let me just do a really quick introduction with Grace, and then I'll ask her to introduce herself as well. So after graduating from the University of the Philippines with a degree in film, Grace received a grant from the EU as part of the project entitled In Defense of Land and Life, addressing human rights concerns of indigenous peoples in resource conflict areas, to produce a mid-length documentary film. As a follow-up to this project, she immersed in the same community for more than 8 years while producing the feature-length documentary film A's for Agustin. The experience and knowledge she obtained through her years in the indigenous community became her driving force in pursuing a master's degree at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where her research focuses on the various forces affecting indigenous groups in Southeast Asia. Grace, welcome to AMAVOH.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting us over. We're very honored to be here and to be given the chance to talk about AS for Agustin and the issues and concerns of our Indigenous brothers and sisters in the Philippines. So, thank you.
Welcome, Grace. And we also have with us Benito Bautista. Benito is an award-winning film director. He founded Wanderlust Project Films in 2001. He's been making films ever since. He co-produced A is for Agustin, and together with his managing partner and film producer Emma Francisco, they've been making films for quite some time. Benito is also busy with many projects with the San Diego Film Cinema. Benito, can you please say a few words? Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having finding merit and inspiration in Grace Simbulan's A is for Agustin film. And so, hi, everyone. Thank you. Very, very kind introduction. Thank you, Queen.
All right, thank you. Welcome both. So I'll start with a question. There was one question sent to me last night, and which I thought was really good. Like, how did you, Grace? How did you convince the community, Agustin as well, to be part of this project, for his life to be almost like be under a lens, a microscope?
So what happened was I was tasked by one of the NGOs that had a project in Agustin's area to make a documentary, and I was already in communication with indigenous leaders, elders, and I got to know the community during a couple of months stay there. And so after I created that documentary film, the indigenous leader, like the chieftain, actually told me that documentary film pressured the local government to put an end to like the small scale mining in the area. And so I guess I was able to gain their trust, and I was very sensitive to their needs and to the needs of everyone while I was doing that mid-length documentary, which I think is very crucial when you're creating a piece about a community. And so I was always honest and open about what my intentions were. And when I decided to actually make, a feature-length documentary, I was always telling the leaders, elders in the community, and even Agustin, of course, that I was making this because I found merit to his story, and I knew that some of the issues that they were facing as a community needed to be told, and a lot of people in Manila or outside Manila needed to know that these stories exist. So yeah, I guess like just the honesty and being open and being sensitive made the whole endeavor, like the whole 8 years, possible.
So that was really interesting when you said 8 years. I read that, and that's a pretty long time, right? Like, how did that feel like? Like, what was that like?
It was very nerve-wracking. I actually didn't plan for it to be 8 years. It was sort of, so when I got there, and I saw, Agustin, I met Agustin, and we built like this relationship. I was just following him with my camera. I wanted to do sort of like a short documentary about his life, but because of a lot of, challenges like financial, and just the idea that I don't think that the film is ready for people to actually see it. I was always trying to find like an ending, a perfect ending to his story, because I didn't want it to be, just following someone and then it didn't have a proper ending, like the ending didn't sit well. And so even after he graduated from grade 6, I still didn't feel like it was the proper ending, because, I was thinking, this is not a Cinderella story. People don't just, work hard and then they gain, a job or whatever. Like I was saying in other kind of interviews, that for as long as people are stuck in a very exploitative system, people like Agustin, who are very hardworking and who are trying to find opportunities, cannot prosper because they're stuck in a society or in a system that always pushes them down, that always oppresses them. So that's why it took me 8 years, because I wanted to see like how he would be able to use the 6 years education to the outside world. But he was always oscillating between his role as a student and as a father and as a family man anyway. But I still wanted to pursue that for 8 years. But to answer your question, it was very nerve-wracking, and there was a lot of times when I doubted myself and doubted what my intentions were, because I was thinking like, I don't think I can solve poverty in the Philippines with this film. But at some point, like, I needed to make peace with myself and my intentions, and just be like, okay, just humble yourself that you can't solve everything with one film.
So given the amount of time you spent with the community and with Agustin, did that change you? Did that was there something that you took away from that experience?
there were a lot of takeaways from that experience. Well, I've mentioned, like, one is that it just reinforced my idea that we do have a very exploitative system in the Philippines. Two, that there's still a need to better our educational system, because a lot of a lot of the things that are included in the syllabus or like the curriculum in the Philippines aren't being used by the indigenous people. A lot of it are not necessary. I've sat down and listened to what is being taught in schools, and I think majority of it is not needed by them. Like, a lot of it, it's just not a waste of time, but yeah, it's just not needed for them. I think there's still a need to decolonize our education in the Philippines. So yeah, those are some of my takeaways during that. And also, like, just learning, I think I now have a better grasp, but reading people and being sensitive to their needs and their wants. Like, if I see that Agustin isn't comfortable at being filmed at the moment, or like his family members aren't comfortable being filmed at the moment, I would stop and I would just hang out. And so there's a lot of like that learnings during those 8 years.
I still feel like 8 years is a lot of time, and you talk about it, and you make it sound so easy. But I can only imagine that must have been just full of like ups and downs and different types of daily emotions, right? So thank you for sharing that. We have a question in Q&A. Is kaingin still prevalent or improved in the Philippines? Do you know about that practice, Grace?
Yes, they do a lot of kaingin in that area. I don't think it hasn't improved. I'm not sure if it has improved, but when I was there, they were still practicing it in Agustin's area. So.
And then here's another question here, which is also related to a question that I got previously. Someone asked if after doing the film, if you are still in touch with Agustin and the community, and how they are now. So that question is related to another question as well, which is like, did Agustin get a chance to see the movie, the finished movie, or the community get a chance to see the movie, and what did they think about it?
Okay, so I'll answer the second question and then I'll get to the first.
Mm-hmm.
So regarding like if Agustin was able to see the movie, of course he has seen the movie. I've after we've edited, or after I've decided that okay, we have a strong enough cut for him to see, I went back to the community and I sat down with him and I showed him the film, and then I didn't want him to be pressured about anything. So I said, you go think about it, and then, tell me if there's something that you didn't like or something that wasn't genuine in that depiction in the film. And so after I showed him that, just the two of us, I went back a week or 2 weeks later, and then I asked him, like, is it okay if I showed it to, the indigenous leaders and elders? Because it's also important. It's not just his story, it's also the story of the community, and they need to know whether the depictions are right or are genuine. And so, yeah, that's what I did. I messaged them, and then I set up, a movie session. And then after that, I asked them, I opened up the floor to any concerns or issues that the film might cause. Because I was very open that, this will be shown by a lot of people. This will be seen by a lot of people in Manila, because this was part of the Q Cinema Film Festival. And so I'm opening the floor for any concerns or issues. And so I think one of the things that they said which didn't sit well with him, was showing that Agustin was drinking. He was drinking whenever he had problems. And so I told them, and I explained that, this is reality. I mean, I'm not hiding anything, or I'm not creating anything. I'm not staging anything. This is exactly what he does when he gets frustrated. And I was happy because Agustin backed me up. He was like, yeah, you all know that I drink. It's one of my problems. And so he didn't have any issues with that. And then once the elders and leaders heard that he was okay with it, then they were also okay with it. And they said that, I think they thought that the depiction of the Aita people in Kapampangan, Zambales were accurate and were genuine. And they saw the merit in this film as well. So after that, so that's the second viewing, because I was already here pursuing my master's degree when we had the premiere, which was actually perfect because at the end of the day, I am not, I shouldn't be the one under the spotlight because it's his film. So when we had the premiere in Q Cinema in 2019, I arranged for Agustin and the Aita chieftain to go to Manila to to introduce the film, and to, if there are any Q&As afterwards, they would answer, and they could use that time to actually tell people about what they're going through, or like the issues that they are currently experiencing, and just use that platform as a way to reach out to people, because I know that there would be a lot of important people in that space. Like Joy Belmonte was there. I think some other politicians were there, and so if they wanted to use that, they'll be free to do so. So they've seen it 3 times. And then what was the other question?
Are you still in touch with Agustin or the community post film, like right now?
So actually, it was funny because last January, his niece, or his nephew reached out to me on Facebook. He was like, hey, I am Agustin's nephew. I just wanted to see how you were, blah, blah, blah. And then we arranged for a video call. So I saw Agustin actually planting I don't know what he was planting. I think kamote. But they were eating, and then they were having fun. And I asked, like, how are you? And he has changed a lot of, he has changed jobs a lot of times. So now he's just planting. And I think he finished the school already. And then when I went back to the Philippines last June, I planned to go to Zambales, but because of the travel restrictions, I actually already got like the swab test and everything, but it was so hard to get into Zambales because they were so strict. And during that time, I think there was a storm, because I just wanted to see how he was, or, hang out without the camera and just tell him about where the film has been going, or what it has been doing, and, what are some of the things that I get from people who get inspired by his story and what he has done. But yeah, sadly, I wasn't able to go because of COVID. So yeah, I think he's doing well. Well, not well, he's still, Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's good to hear. We have a few comments in chat, questions, as well as in one in Q&A. I promise to get back to those, but I want to switch gears a little bit. Benito, I wanna ask you a few things. One is that, how did your collaboration with Grace come about?
Okay. Oh, that's a very good question. Grace, you were great in the questions earlier, in answering those questions. Well, when Grace, I've worked with Grace, Emma and I. Emma is one of the co-producers. So we've worked with Grace. We've seen and experienced her sensitivity to issues in film, in the visual storytelling in film, and also her sincerity in the telling of films. And so we know Grace. We still work with Grace. And so when Grace approached us about an idea, usually there are two things that will happen when it's not our film, it's somebody else's film, and we are being approached to produce the film. Two things are happening. One, we look at the film concept and the story concept and whatever text and meaning and symbols that are going to be present in the film. And the other one, we look at the filmmaker who's going to do that project. And so two things happened. So Grace approached us. We learned about the story that she wanted to do with A is for Agustin and the discovery of Agustin in Zambales. And we are very familiar with Zambales, so we know Zambales. And so we liked the idea. At the time when Grace approached us, there was no clear idea of how it's going to end. And that's the beauty of documentaries, because it's open, it's pretty open. Your exploration will be open. You have no idea how it's going to end. The filmmaker will end the film. That's the creative license. She will know. Grace, in this case, found out when it's over, And so as producers, we will be at every stage of the way, in the making of the film. And Grace will approach us for creative consultation and say, how about this and how about that? And is this that right? Am I going this way? So, and then in the end, she will make the decision. So that's one portion of that. So after learning about the story, we told Grace, wow, that's amazing. We're excited. We wanna produce this film. We wanna help you produce this film. And then the second part is the question, you look at the filmmaker and the film that, the filmmaker is going to do. And will that equate? Is that a good combination? It's a right fit. And you look at Grace, and we work with Grace. And Grace has the care, has the sensitivity. She has the social activism in her heart. She's always what do you call that? You never question her stamina. You will never question her stamina. she will be, she's like, oh, sorry, there's the plane. Grace is like, I told in one of the interviews that she's like my clone. If I'm standing at 18 hours, Grace will be standing 24 hours, It's like that. She's my clone. So physically, we already know Grace can do it. If it takes 8 years, Grace can do it. That's not a problem. And her pulse in the telling of the film will be amazing. And also Grace has the charm to access a community, and can go deeper into that community, and we'll get that access. We know it can happen. So we said yes to Grace. Yeah, and that was I hope I answered your question. So.
Yeah, and Benito, speaking of stamina and charm, I wonder, what are the challenges, and if stamina and charm will help with those challenges in showing Filipino films to the world? What is it like to bring Filipino films to a larger audience? And we've seen the list of platforms and festivals that you and Grace have taken this movie to, and we've seen the various nominations. But I bet this is not like as simple as it sounds, right? And this is not the only film either of Filipino artistic talent that you brought to the world. So what are the challenges of doing that?
Well, I think I think as filmmakers, we are responsible for telling stories that will hopefully motivate our existence and maybe change our existence, and how we, we communicate and we have relationships with communities and people and everything. And so because of that, we are forever driven in search of stories, and in this case, specifically A is for Agustin film with Grace. Grace is forever attached to this film. If there is a discussion about this film, Grace will be there, of course, schedule permitting, and in this case, we are fortunate enough to have a sales agent and a distributor. So it's going worldwide. It's being licensed worldwide. We don't know who's going to license and everything. And every time A is for Agustin is being shown in a community like this, I will have to ask the permission of the sales agent. I became the mediator for Grace and the film, and would like to bring the film to the community as far and wide as possible.
In general,
sales...
Benito, sorry,
yes.
I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry. In
Yeah.
general, is the world receptive of Filipino films, like beyond the Filipino communities?
That's a very, very good question. I think in my experience, and I don't know about Grace's experience, but maybe similar. I think if you ask me that question about 10 years ago, I would say that the Filipino audience globally, we are not keen in reaching out to watch stories created by Filipinos, and the reason being is because our mentality is still American films, is still what do you call that? Blockbuster films, is still eye candy, bubblegum films, so we are not curious. There is not a lot of pride and inspiration. They've never seen a filmmaker like Grace or me or Emma discuss cinema. But now it's changing, and it's changing because we are part of the Asian film movement. There is a wave of movement in American viewing, and also our community viewing. We are part of that. And so we're changing. A long time ago, nobody would watch a film with subtitles unless you're European, or unless you're a filmmaker, But for others, it's a lot of work. It's taxing.
Yeah.
You have your different language, and then you have subtitles. There's a lot of work to be done. But now, we can see that the audience, our Filipino American community, and our Filipino community, and also the AAPI community, and also the diverse community, they're now beginning to entertain and accommodate films with subtitles and films created by global Filipino filmmakers.
And there's probably, thank you for sharing that, and there's probably some responsibility also for Filipinos around the world and organizations like UPAW to kind of help bring this, bring more awareness, right?
Yeah.
So to that end, we have a question, Q&A about how to bring this to Melbourne, Australia, Benito. So I think the answer is, I think you mentioned this, to connect people with you so that you can start the ball rolling on the logistics. So we'll do that. I think it's Tito Eddie who asked that question from Australia.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm going back to the movie. A few questions we have here about the movie. There was a question, Grace. What did the community expect to gain from them being filmed and being exposed to the outside world?
Well, I was, from the very beginning, I was very honest naman about my intentions, and that I didn't promise them anything, that I would be able to change anything. But but I said that I wanted, the issue on the current state of education in Kapampangan, Zambales, or in indigenous communities to be seen by, people who can make a difference. That means policymakers, people in position, and, and then create more discussions around this, such as, like what we're doing now, and show it to other people in other communities, because this was, shown not only in mainstream cinemas, it was also shown in like alternative cinemas, like it was shown in bars where kids were there, and then there was a discussion afterwards. So I don't think that they expected anything, because I was very honest about what my intentions were, and so I didn't want to create that that false hope that I would be able to solve all their problems after this was finished. So I just like the film previous to this, the mid-length documentary, I didn't promise them that I would put an end to the small scale mining in that area, but because I pushed for discussions, and I interviewed a lot of people and showed that film to a broader audience, that sort of pressured the local government in that area to put an end. So I think that's very important if you're making, advocacy films or any films with the involving a lot of people, that you're, honest about your intentions and you don't promise anything. And then, when something good comes out of it, then they just surprise you, and they surprise the community as well. So, I hope that answered your question.
I think it did. Thank you. We have another question. The alternative learning system, as being more suited for Agustin, was mentioned, but was not elaborated on. Just the setup of having small children helping an adult, as well as how the educator was interacting with him, does not promote success for Agustin. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess those scenes actually reflect how people view education and people who are engaged in education. That I think for that one, it shows that people have like this timeline of when they're supposed to be finishing something. Like for example, for the teachers, I think he was a unique case because a lot of the other students were younger than him, and he was this old man trying to study, starting grade 1. But I think it was actually like what he did was actually so fascinating and so commendable, because after that I talked to the teachers, and they were getting more people, older people who were enrolling in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. And that was really fascinating for me, and that actually made me very happy to hear that. In terms of the alternative learning system, or ALS, the alternative learning school, I actually had a conversation with Agustin about that, and I was like, if this is something that you want to do, I'll support you. Like, we can do that if you really want it, and your heart really tells that you want to pursue it. But he was bombarded with so many responsibilities at home, and just the pressure of learning his ABCs and counting and everything. I think he thought of it, but he never actually pursued it because he was very selfless, and he wanted his kid to actually have that opportunity to better his circumstances. So those are some of the thoughts that I have given that question.
Well, as someone in her 40s myself, and I was watching Agustin like in grade 6, and he started drinking, and he missed some days in school. I was wondering if over and above the poverty and the responsibilities at home, if he could also be dealing with vision issues, because that's kind of when it starts, right? Like you need reading glasses by the time you kind of reach a certain age. And could that be an issue too? Like it's just making it harder for them, having no access to like basic medical or healthcare system.
I actually never thought about it, but now that you've mentioned it, was he was always in the front row. That's one of the things that I noticed. He was actually either on the corner, but it was always at the front, or like the other corner, left or right. And so maybe because he always wanted to be in front, and so I thought maybe he just wanted to absorb the knowledge from the teacher from a very short distance, but I never actually thought about it. But yeah, probably that's we've never actually discussed that. Like, we've never discussed that, but probably that's an issue. In terms of healthcare, it doesn't exist in Zambales.
Right. That is really the teacher was asking them how they brush their teeth, and that's very common in the Philippines, especially in the rural areas. We have one more question. How is the reception of the film outside of the Filipino community? Their feedback, comments after watching this. Benito, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yes. Well, what do you call that? We had a virtual screening, of the film, and there's a lot of people that commented. They engaged with Grace as well. It's a story that they are not familiar with. It's a landscape that they are not familiar with, and so we also have Filipino Americans that have never been to the Philippines, and we have policymakers that watch the film that have been disconnected from the Philippines, and now they live here. And so from that perspective, they learned a lot. They really like the film. They think that it's very introspective. It's very insightful. And the telling and the visual telling of the film is very poignant. It's very, very not in your face. It's just there. It's happening. Now, when it comes to foreign audiences, I would refer to, because I never traveled with the film. It was Grace. She has a luggage ready to go anytime, so the luggage will say this is ready for Italy, or this is ready for California, so Philippines. So she's the filmmaker, so she's the, what do you call that? She is connected, like what I said earlier, she's connected to the film. And so she recently traveled to Europe, to discuss the film. And so, I would refer to Grace in terms of foreign audiences.
So I guess when I show this to foreign audiences, well, their reaction would be that they would be surprised, because this is something that is not common for them to see and hear. And so there would be a lot of discussions about education, like, is this kind of plight representative of a majority of the population, or the indigenous population? Or we would have discussions about like poverty in the Philippines and access to healthcare, access to certain basic services. I'm trying to recall what other discussions or what other reactions, but the first reaction would be surprise. Because of course, especially when I go to more developed countries, it's not a common issue, or it's not a common plight that they see in films. But surprise, just like that, wanting to learn more about the Philippines, because a lot of them also do not know where the Philippines is in the map. So it's just, putting us back in the map, even though this is like not a happy story, but at least it brings us back in the map. But yeah, so far.
Yeah, and to add to that, somebody mentioned, and I think Emma and I mentioned too, but somebody in the audience mentioned that Grace's film, A is for Agustin, reminds them of the film, Oscar award-winning film, Honeyland. You know, where it goes deeper into the not only the persona, you know, and the psyche and the consciousness of the subject, but also the telling of the landscape where the subject inhabited or resides. So yeah, that is one of the beautiful comments that was given to Grace's A's for Agustin, to be mentioned at the same level at an award-winning Oscar award-winning documentary feature film.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And I'm obviously not a film critic, Grace, but watching the camera angles, the pacing, the music, right? Like it was just really well done. So great job on that.
Thank you.
Not a film critic though, but watch a lot of movies. It was really great. And we have one comment here also. It says, great documentary, gives perspective to how important education. And Agustin explicitly mentioned that it is the only way to give one a chance to get out of poverty. It does remind me, and you mentioned this earlier, like it's not just effort, right? It's not just effort. Effort alone is not enough to lift someone out of poverty. And a book I recently read, this reminded me of a book I recently read by Ibram Kendi, How to Be an Anti-Racist. And he talks about like some of the systemic things that's really like are essentially headwinds for people that even with effort, it still makes getting out of poverty or that systemic cycle that you're in very difficult. Do you think, Grace, that has improved from when you were working on this with Agustin to now?
In terms of like the
systemic, yeah,
oppression.
some of the systemic oppression, the systems in place.
I think it has gone worse in the Philippines, especially. Like, look at the people who are, look at who we have as like presidential, what do you call that? Like people who were going to,
who are running for president. Yeah,
we have I don't know if we have Bongbong, we have Isko, we have Pacquiao. Oh my God. And especially now during the Duterte administration, I think things has just gotten worse. There are a lot of, I've attended a lot of webinars where Indigenous people were talking about the oppressions they faced because of some of the laws that were created during his time, like the NTF LCAC, where Indigenous people, it was weaponized against Indigenous peoples because they were being targeted as communists. Also, if you have a sexist president who do not value women, who do not respect women, that also translates to a lot of how he treats other people. So I think it has gotten worse. But I am very hopeful for the next election next year. So please register and vote and do whatever you can in order to kick these monsters out of position. So
thank you. What's next? What's next for A for Agustin? What's next for you?
Well, so for A is for Agustin, it's going to be shown next month, October. So we have like the San Diego Filipino Film Festival. It's the first San Diego Filipino Film Festival by the San Diego Film Cinema. It's from October 14th to the 20th. A lot of the films will be shown in AMC theaters. So for more information, you can visit their website at sdfff, so fff.org. If you know anyone who, who are interested in learning more about our documentaries in the Philippines, or stories from Filipino filmmakers, or stories from the Philippines. If you know anyone from San Diego, please ask them to watch the films, because it's going to be the first in-person one. It's going to be so exciting. There will be a lot of activities, and I'm very excited to be there for next month. But aside from that, I'm just hoping that a lot of communities will reach out to see this film and to create sort of create a safe and brave space for discussions around education, about oppressions, about how do we crack the system slowly, this oppressive system. So yeah, that's what is next for AS for Agustin.
Very good. Congratulations. Benito, I know Grace mentioned San Diego Filipino Cinema. What else is going with Wanderlust Projects and San Diego Filipino Cinema?
So, there are two things, right? So, MI we work in both companies. So, Wanderlust Project Films is a film company that we make virtually. We conceptualize virtually here, and then we film anywhere in any parts of the world, and in both documentary and narrative formats. And the other one is our nonprofit. We co-founded the San Diego Filipino Cinema, and now this October we will have the first San Diego Filipino Film Festival in the history of San Diego. This is the first ever Filipino Film Festival.
So this is historical.
Yes, it's historical.
Right.
And we just had a meeting last night, and we are going to get a proclamation from San Diego County, to proclaim. I don't know what they're going to proclaim, but we're receiving.
October is Filipino American History Month.
Yes, but I don't know what they're going to proclaim. So anyway, we're getting a proclamation. So
you're going to be the mayor of San Diego.
Oh no, yeah, but so we're bringing Grace and other filmmakers for an in-person discussion of the films they've created. We already have an online interview like this with Grace, with an emerging filmmaker as well. We are also going to have another interview with Grace at the Hilton, and at the same time, Grace is going to see the diverse community who's going to watch the film. That's very exciting. On the other side of things, I'm bringing in Grace to shift gears, and we are going to bring Grace to be part of a narrative production, a narrative film production, a genre film. I cannot discuss with you the genre, and I cannot discuss with you the story. We are in development, but Grace is coming in again in film production. This is an American story. Now, on the other section, one of the films that I co-produced also is going to be screened at the San Diego Filipino Film Festival. It is A Long March. It is a story. It's a story told by the point of view of three Filipino U.S. Veterans of World War II. The people that have walked and marched the Bataan Death March. And now where are they, and how come the American government is not in recognition of the services that they did? And that's part of so it will have a special screening at the San Diego Filipino Film Festival, and the filmmakers like Grace are coming. So that's I think that's about it.
Well, that's exciting. That's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Anything going on with streaming services that we can look forward to?
Yes.
Netflix,
Yes.
Amazon.
Yes. So I will forward you, and you can forward to everyone. So A is for Agustin. Grace's film is now in worldwide distribution. It is now on different channels. So I will forward you which channels, and our distributor is seeking out more channels and licensing, and so we will keep you updated as well. And I wrote here, we might go to Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Grace is already packed. She has a luggage ready for for wherever. So yeah, you
That's
let us
great.
know.
That's great. That's really exciting.
Yes, yeah. What worries me is that when I made and Grace was part of the feature documentary that I made. Me and Emma were part of that. So it took us 4 years to make the documentary. Now Grace made a documentary film that took her 8 years, and now it's challenging me to make a documentary that will take me 10 years to make. And so that's I'm worried about that. So
Right. That's a lot of years.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm
That's a
just
lot of
kidding.
years. Well, thank you both for your just your stamina and charm. And we know that this takes a lot of work. And thank you for coming here and spending time with us. I'm gonna ask our audience if there are any more questions. We're just right on time. We had a Q&A for an hour, which is like, it's amazing that we stayed on time. I think the conversation went by really quickly. But if anyone has any more questions, I think we might have time for one or two more. Raise your hand. Okay, someone just said thank you. And let's see if I can see the more. Congratulations. All right, very well. So why don't we close with like takeaways? We'd like to help. What should the Filipino community do to help help with systemic issues in the Philippines? Grace, I know you mentioned, vote. That's probably it. But in terms of sending this message to a wider audience, supporting filmmakers like you, supporting Filipino projects, Benito, what can the Filipino do? What can communities like ours do to help?
Oh, that is a very good question. That is sort of the other side of the rainbow. So Grace and I and the global Filipino filmmakers, we open a box, and the box starts to become a rainbow. And at the end of the rainbow, you guys, when you have questions like that is a very important question for us, because we make the film, and the film becomes a mirror in front of all of us. So you don't know who will be in front of that mirror. And so, like what I mentioned earlier, when we presented Grace's film, a couple of policymakers said, "Oh my God, the Filipinos only need this much to have the educational system to change, and to have a really nice equipment, to have you know what I'm saying?" So you don't know, right, who's going to be affected and who's going to make the change.
Right.
Yeah, so our work as filmmakers, our responsibilities is always to, highlight and, put a flashlight on ideas and issues and arguments in a visual form, in an entertaining visual form, film, in the medium of film. And then people like, your organization, Cream, Lucy, and the Ike, and everyone in your organization, you guys are doing an amazing job to share the information and to make it grow and keep on sharing. And this partnership, as far as I'm concerned, we are going to share more films to you, and that way we continue the discussion, and somehow one of those discussions, a multimillionaire, whatever, will say, "Oh, I can help. I can help with the community," or a government official. "Oh, I can change things and legislation and everything." So yeah, yeah, and we, as a platform, our nonprofit is open for donations. If you want to donate, if somebody wants to donate, just put down, we have a link on the website, and put down, this is a donation to support filmmakers, or to support the mentorship, or to support the generation and discovery of ideas and films. Yeah, and to support the operation of a nonprofit. So yeah, you can always do that. Yeah. And we don't say no to $1, $2. So we're all inclusive in dollars.
Very good. And we can send that that URL to San Diego Filipino Cinema. To our audience later.
Thank you, Kareem.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. Grace, any last words?
Well, I mentioned this previously, but I hope that this film kind of makes people realize that, you know, they have the power to make an impact on other people's lives. And it doesn't matter whether you're a policymaker, whether you're a filmmaker, as long as your intentions are genuine and as long as there is the will to help others, it would create, you know, those small ripples of change, however small, whatever your career path, whatever your heart pursues. If it's, you know, painting, if you do it with passion and with the right intentions, it will create those, somebody will get inspired by it and somebody will do something. So there is no small role in anything. That's one of the things that I wanted the film kind of to tell other people, aside from, you know, showing the systemic oppressions in the Philippines and in other developing countries, that we can make a difference. So that's all. Thank you for this. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't think we have any more questions. We really appreciate the time we spent with you, and good luck on future endeavors. Good luck on A for Agustin. Good luck on the San Diego Filipino Film Festival, and may you have a great week. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone who attended this Q&A as well.
Thank you, Kareem. Thank you very much.
Salamat po.
Maraming salamat. Oh my God.
Salamat.
Salamat, Lucy, everyone. Big hugs. Big hugs.
Big virtual hugs.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.